Hello and welcome to Bedson and Coffey Unfiltered,
where we will be discussing fitness, lifestyle, healthy eating habits, relationships, gas station performance pills, answering romantic queries. You have anything else, Tyler? Is there anything? Do you need help with anything right now? Because I feel like I'm in a position where I can help you with it.
I mean, and everything else that we come across as we go. But you know what it's going to be, right?
It's going to be unfiltered.
So we're going to first introduce ourselves. I'm going to let Eli go first and kind of tell about how he got started, what he does now. But first, we're going to learn about where we are. So, Eli, explain yourself.
First of all, I own a gym in Somerset, Kentucky, Mid-City Gym with my business partner, Anna Lee Jaime. We've had that since we opened in about 2016. And then we opened under the name Lift Inc. And then we've changed locations a couple times since then. But I am a bodybuilding coach also, but I also coach a lot of you got it, you good. But I coach a lot of people across varying sports. I'm a nutrition coach and weight cut specialist for a lot of guys in grappling and jiu-jitsu, MMA, powerlifting, so on. And of course I have a lot of lifestyle clients that I work with as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've been around as long as I can remember me being around. So
I've been around for a bit. Yeah. I my first show was in 2014. Mm-hmm. And I was in Alabama. I was in Mobile for that show. And I had no idea I was ever going to get involved in bodybuilding. Didn't think I had the quote unquote genetics for it. Just one of those random things that happened. Was considering doing a powerlifting meet. And that got canceled and I was leaning down. And one thing led to another. And then there I was. So yeah, pretty neat.
It's kind of crazy how we have developed over the years.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to go back and start talking about some of that. But real quick about myself, I'm Tyler Bedson. I'm the CEO of Built by Bedson LLC, which is a company that trains athletes as far as bodybuilding. Got MMA fighters and Major League Baseball players, and then just people that want to look like a fitness model or look and feel better. And we have me as a coach, my wife Laura Bedson, Austin Brown, and we just hired on Jessica Briggs.
I've seen that.
So we have 4 coaches now on our team, and we coach people all around the nation and even some out of the country. I've got some in Korea. Had ones in New Zealand. So it's kind of cool how it's growing.
It really is cool when you start working with people outside the country. Whenever you're learning about different manners in which they eat. And so when we think of like typical meals here, that's not necessarily a typical breakfast in Egypt or a typical breakfast in Poland or so on. And, working with people outside the country, even the terminology for certain foods, they're like, I can't find this.
No. You got to kind of make it based off what they have there.
Sure.
I've got some on military bases and they get food, every 3 weeks stocked back up. And they're like, I don't have this. What can I do? And I'm like, man. So you have to be able to manage all that. So Eli, let's see. Where'd you get started? What got you into this? What would you say was your defining moment where you were like, I want to see what fitness is all about?
As a kid, of course, we all growing up in the era that we did, all the guys on TV were always big, strong guys, when you grow up, you watch the action movies and you see Jean-Claude or you see Arnold, everybody was always big and muscular, and then they won the fight and they got the girl and all those cool things. Yeah. So I think every little boy wants to kind of be that way. But for me as a kid, I started seeing, I went to the video store and I rented the UFC, I think it was the second one. Mm-hmm. And I seen it, I was like, this is incredible. What is this, And that made me want to start getting involved in martial arts. And I wasn't able to at the time because I was growing up in the middle of McCrary County. There wasn't a whole lot there in way of that. But, as I got older, I got more involved with that and I began to lift weights. And then really, as far as taking things seriously, lifting, there's a difference between working out and actually training.
Oh, yeah.
And, not just because you go to the gym doesn't mean you have any kind of, educated approach to it. You can go in there and just kind of screw around. Mm-hmm. And, I was like many, and I was guilty of that as a kid. You go in, you kind of take a buffet style approach to training. I'll try a little of this and a little of this. But I tore a hamstring in a fight in 2010 or 11. And that led to me severing my ACL training later. Yeah. So, I was walking around maybe 190 and I lost so much tissue that I was down to like 160s. I didn't have any insurance or anything. And I finally got my ACL replaced. And, with that, I started trying to get in the gym, trying to build back some of that tissue. I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of strong. Like this is starting to come to me a little bit more naturally than some of the other guys I was hanging out with. So I started lifting more and more. Ended up moving to Alabama and started working at a Gold's Gym. That's how I actually got involved with training. Prior to that, I was a welding engineer, oddly enough. But, with that, there was a powerlifting competition coming up, and I thought, well, I'll give that a shot. We'll see. At that time, I was weighing, 190, and I was benching low fours. I just kind of gotten started with that stuff. But that got canceled, and I was looking, and the lady that I was with at the time, she's like, well, why don't you try a bodybuilding show? And I was like, I have no idea anything about that. That's not for me. I don't have the genetics for that, so to speak.
They get it in your head.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, with my joint issues and the osteoarthritis, I couldn't really, hit certain poses even at that time. And that was 10 years ago now. And, she's like, well, these guys aren't posing, and they were wearing board shorts. I'm like, is that bodybuilding? Why are they wearing like swim trunks? What's going on here? And it was Men's Physique. They had just kind of started it. Mm-hmm. And, so anyway, long story short, I went to a posing seminar from the promoter of that show, and he offered me a chance to join their team and work with me. And Mike Horn was his name. It was in Mobile, Alabama. And but anyway, I ended up doing that show, and for my first show, I did very well. I didn't do novice, I did open, and then they had a Gulf Coast that was like every Men's Physique competitor in there. It was like Mystery Gulf Coast. But anyway, I placed well in both those. And that's kind of where it started. And I came back and began working with Matt Jansen.
Remember Matt back in the days?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he may have still been in Kentucky when we began.
When I started I started getting into training when I was about 14, 15. I remember he was a trainer inside of Lexington Athletic Club. Yeah. So I'd always see him. And it's crazy to see where he's at now, just by getting into it.
Oh, yeah, it's unreal. Yeah, he's done exceptional.
So I try to think back to when I started, and it's kind of crazy. I know I was like 14 or 15. I remember my dad was Army for 26 years, so he was always about staying in shape.
Sure.
But we had like a Bowflex. You remember the ones with
yes.
like the resistance bands, and you had to attach
you had the bars up and you attached to it.
Yes, that old piece of equipment. We had that, and we had a pair of those dumbbells, the ones that kind of you could change the weight on them. I'm pretty sure they're made by Bowflex too.
Yeah, you turn the dial and it would pick up different plates and stuff.
We had those, and I would sit down in the basement, and I would just do what I could figure out what to do with that machine. And I did that for years before ever going into the actual gym, because I was kind of intimidated. And it's funny because at 15, I worked at a place inside of Lexington Athletic Club called Kids Place. And, and it was like a kids playground, but we got free gym membership to LAC. So I was like, let me give it a try, and I did. And I went in there, like you said, kind of like yourself, just doing random stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. I would go do one machine. I'd do another machine. I'd do another one. And I thought that was okay.
Well, you see other people doing it. Like you know, I think that's, for most people, they look and they say, okay, well, this guy looks all right. What's he doing? Okay, well, I'll do that too.
Yeah, they kind of watch you in the gym.
And that guy may not know what he's doing or why he's doing it. No, but you're just kind of
like, all right, well, that's how you do that. Okay, I'll try that.
Right.
And I kind of started there and thought, okay, well, this is kind of cool. I just want to be a little bit more in shape. I didn't really know what I was doing. But I remember when I was 18 years old, I was a delinquent kid. I was doing stupid shit. Like most of us, but I was doing it at another level higher than other kids, stupid shit. So, I was selling drugs and things I shouldn't have been doing.
Right, yeah.
And 9 days after I turned 18, I got arrested. Mm-hmm. And that changed my life forever. I do remember that was a big reason I needed to change my life. I realized that at 18. It got me into some trouble that it held me back to the point where I was like, I've got to do something or I'm going to end up in a really bad situation. So looking back, what my thoughts were is like, I'm going to get into weight training, bodybuilding. And that's going to help me to get away from the bad stuff I've been doing and the people I've been hanging out with and find new friends and a new thing to do and a new thing to focus on. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I started getting into it as I could. You know, I'm a very all-in person.
Sure.
So from there, that was like what main focus. I ended up going to school at University of Kentucky, major in exercise science. I dedicated everything I could to learning about bodybuilding and relating every topic that I was learning to that. And it just kind of stacked up, you know, it became my entire life. And I would say in a way, like many people, it kind of saved me.
Sure.
You know, like I could have been in a down path. And I always think back, like, what would I be doing right now?
Absolutely.
If I didn't get into this, right?
For me, it gave me structure. You know, when I say that I didn't really start training until later, I mean, I'll still go to the gym and I'll still do something. But for me, as a kid, I was raised by a single mother. And we had to move in with my grandmother. You know, my mother and my father split when I was just an infant. And, you know, my mother worked like 3 jobs, man. Like growing up in McCrae County, it's not like there was a lot of opportunity. There wasn't, you know, in her particular situation, things were very difficult. I can remember minimum wage being like $4 an hour, man. You know, wearing like the dollar store shoes and stuff. And
trying to live off that.
doing whatever you can. And, but anyway, like the situation that we were in, I was in an abusive scenario. My mother worked nights and we had to stay there. Well, you know, you'd have drunk uncles or pillhead cousins come through, you know, and then I was just that kid and I would, you know, have to deal with that, you know, and like this thumb's still fucked up because I had an uncle, you know, decide that he didn't want to, you know, I thought he was playing. He just grabs my thumb and bends it all the way back to my forearm and just breaks it clean out of place. Me like 6 years old. Or you have to fight a cousin that's like 8, 9 years older than you because they think it's funny or something. You know, so you try to just kind of bottle all that up. And when I started going to the gym, there was a little gym that came in downtown in Stearns. And I begged my mother to get me a membership. And I'd walk there from the house because I was too young to get a driver's license. So I would walk there and I would work out. But for me, you know, I never really knew when my mother was around, everything was, you know, like my mother's amazing. But I didn't really know one day to the next what was waiting on me at home.
Yeah.
So there was that instability there. You know, you didn't know if you were going to be home and somebody come in and, you know, things go to hell and you have to, you know, fight or any crazy shit that was going to go with the police or whatever. Like it was ridiculous. But inside of that gym, that 45-pound bar always weighed 45 pounds.
It's consistent.
There was consistency there. And that kind of gave me comfort. So, you know, I would walk there daily. You know, I didn't know a damn thing. But, you know, and then as I got older, I was probably maybe 15 at this point. So like all that, you know, everything that you go through, you start to kind of build that up and you bottle that up and you begin to be, you know, resentful and so on. But I was a strong kid. I would go there and I remember trying to bench press 225 every single day. And I would look back, and the lady at the desk, if she was at the desk, I'd roll the bar to my waist and stand up and sit it in the floor if I missed it, you know. Yeah. And if she wasn't, then I would never put the collars on so I could tilt and just dump it in the floor and then hurry and try to put it away before she, because I wanted 225 so bad I couldn't stand it. But, you know, as that went on, like I said, you kind of, you know, you grow up in those scenarios and you think, well, just everybody's, you know, like people are just mean. People are, you know, whatever. So you kind of, you get that thick skin and you get resentful. And then I met some guys that were involved with the martial arts and I begged them, you know, let me come train with you. Let me come train with you. So I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't really know a lot about it. I'd never been around. I just know what I'd seen on TV, you know. And they let me, and they beat the hell out of me. It was like that old school mindset with training. Like training was like fighting, you know. Yeah. And you know, I would be sitting there, and they would like, "Are you going to come back? You coming back?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I just want to cry right now. But I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be back." And I just kept showing up.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and continued to just submerge myself in that because now I had some sort of consistency in my life that I didn't have before. And, you know, that, you know, out of the gate, just understanding, okay, well, this is how I have to apply myself. Like this is what it takes. And I could see those guys, you know, constantly putting in work and so on. It's like, okay, you know, I'd never been around anybody like that. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to put down an area. There's good and bad people everywhere, but like the particular area I grew up in, I wasn't subject to a lot of positive individuals. I wasn't subject to, I didn't see a lot of, people who wanted more and were willing to do more. You see that laziness and complacency and just like, well, this is just life. You have to accept it, and that's not the case. And whenever I seen that, it made me understand that there was a lot more out there. I just had to really apply myself and be willing to suffer for it. And, so that's been the thing for me. And then as things went on, the lifting got more and more serious, and with joint issues and injuries, the martial arts side of it kind of had to go on the back burner for a bit, but that's kind of led me to where I am now. So,
yeah, so I say you're in a pretty good spot. It's nice,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and yourself as well. But it's, sometimes it sounds weird, but sometimes, in the moment you think this is just a horrible situation. Yeah. This is, whatever. And given it is, but later in life, it almost becomes a superpower because you understand, okay, well, this is, I've been through worse than this. This is okay. Like I've went to bed hungry. I've had to do this stuff. I've had my eyes beat shut. I understand these things. Like I understand, this isn't so bad. Like I can get through this. And it gives you that work ethic and that ability to mentally, that just fucking push through.
Yeah.
The surgeries I've had over the last year and whatnot, trying to stay dialed in with that. Had I had a different upbringing and so on, I don't know that my mind would have stood all that.
That's the thing is I feel like upbringing is something that creates the person. Like, how was your life? My dad was a drill sergeant most of our life. We were living in Germany before we came over here.
Your dad was a drill sergeant. I didn't know that.
Sergeant. He was actually top drill sergeant of the year, I think, multiple years. But that's who raised me and my brother. So it was strict.
Sure.
All the way growing up, we were raised to do things correctly, not make excuses, be respectful towards people. And if we weren't, we knew my dad when he came home.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't going to be a good night. So that taught me discipline, though, and I've carried that over to every other facet in life. And I feel like a lot of people aren't able to do that because they haven't done hard things. But when you do hard things, it kind of creates this new idea of life where you can do anything. So I try to think back of what you were saying about the gym, the consistency.
Sure.
That was one part of my life where it's never been wrong to me. Mm-hmm. Anytime I go to the gym, I know what I'm going to get. Mm-hmm. I know that it's going to be a good therapy session for me, which it makes me excited to go. And it's something I've made into my routine and I live my life around because I know how happy it makes me feel. And I know that when I go there, I'm always going to get what I want out of it. It's not going to wrong me. Even no matter what's going on in life, the negatives, positives, the gym's always going to treat me right.
Yes. And it's you get out what you put in. It completely mirrors your effort. If you go there and you fuck off and you don't really do much, well, you can tell. You can't fake strength, and whatever you eat in secret, you wear in public. So
absolutely.
All that stuff that you're doing in there, it's 100% on your feedback or on what you get out of it. So you only get out what you put in. So that's the thing I love about it is it's honest. Yep. It's 100% honest. It's no respect of persons. You don't matter how much money you make or who your dad was or where you come from. That weight weighs the same for everybody. Yeah. And that consistency was always something that comforted me because I thought, well, I just got to outwork you. It's all I got to do.
One thing money cannot buy. Mm-hmm. And I always tell it to people, the work ethic and everything you put into the gym, can't buy it with money. There's no magic pill you can just take. Because if there was, there'd be a ton of people.
Oh, sure.
In great, fantastic shape. But there's not. You have to work for every ounce of it, which is another satisfying thing to me, because you get in what you put in.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And, speaking about work ethic, I was discussing this with a young man at my gym the other day. When you look at these athletes and you see, you think of the attributes that come along with being a top tier athlete, and you think of, that natural strength or natural speed and charisma and, agility and all these things and work ethic. to me, work ethic has always been the most impressive. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's the only one you get to choose.
Yeah.
Like you can't choose who your parents were, you know, how you were born and your genetic makeup and all these things, but you can decide how hard you work and how you apply yourself.
Yeah.
And to me, that's always been the most impressive, because you can take some individuals who may be lacking these other attributes, but absolutely bust ass and beat you because they're willing to go to distances that your mind can't take and you will break, you know, and I always think about conditioning and bodybuilding shows. It's like, well, how much are you willing to suffer?
Oh yeah. And you can learn a lot about yourself when you go through a bodybuilding competition
100%.
prep. You will learn how strong you are mentally.
Absolutely.
And it'll teach you new things about yourself and overall make you a better person.
Yes. You know, and it's, but you'll see that, and you'll see like everybody thinks, you know, like you see, of course you see the guys on stage, the females on stage, the males on stage, and they're under the lights and they look amazing, you know, but you don't see those 5 a.m. cardio sessions, your stomach hurting because you're hungry, these things, your mind going fucking crazy because your hormones are fluctuating and everything else. And, you know, you don't see these things, but, you know, you see the glitz and the glamour of it. But once you really get, you know, you really get out and you start getting closer to that show, and you start getting to those points where it's like, you know what, this isn't fun. This isn't, you know, and you realize, well, maybe this is what I signed up for.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. I think social media kind of glamorizes
Very much so
what we're doing now. And it's not pretty. It's not, you know.
No, there's the actual, you know, you're on stage. If like I did men's physique several times, and you're on stage 15 seconds. You know,
how much work goes into that 15
Jesus Christ,
seconds?
dude, years. You're in the gym, you know, several hours a day with the cardio and the lifting and your meals and everything else, and it's very unsexy. The truth of it and what gets you there is very unsexy. You're eating like a dog. You're eating the same thing every single day. And, you know, you're putting in that work and you're on that treadmill and you're on that step master and you're lifting those weights and stuff. And you just get, you know, but again, it gets glamorized. And I think some people have a false idea of what goes into it. Like it's going to be fun or it's going to be these things, you know, but it's different.
I get asked all the time, like, what do you do for this? And how did you get to this and all this? And I always tell people, you know, I started when I was 18, like I said, whenever I started getting serious about it, I was 98 pounds. I was like a stick. Yeah. I was literally a walking stick, man. I was like...
At 18, you were 98 pounds?
98 pounds. I was like walking around, I looked like I was an anorexic kid. People would make fun of me for being so skinny. Like, I don't think anybody would really take me too serious. And it was just like, I look back, and I'm 31 now, and I'm like, people be like, what did you do for this? And I'm like, I did this for 13 years now. Yeah. You know, like 13 years of
consistency is the
trying.
key. Yeah. Consistency and continuity is the key and the secret that nobody wants to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody thinks they're one steroid cycle away from being an Olympia athlete. And it's no, like, I mean, do it correctly and do it for a long damn time. You know,
consistency over time. And I don't think a lot of people like that answer because, you know, I spent 18 years of my life as basically a skinny kid.
Sure.
And the other 13 I've spent trying to not be a skinny kid.
Yeah. That's another thing that's interesting is it was almost the flip side of that coin for me. I was heavy as a kid. Yeah. I was 210 in 8th grade. Yeah. At the height I am now. So I was 5'10", 210 in 8th grade. And then Mom bought me a little weight set like at 8th grade or something. You remember the little gray plastic weights that was filled with concrete?
Oh man, that might be before my time, but I've probably seen them.
Well, you want to tell people my age, you can shut the fuck up. But anyway, she out of the JCPenney catalog, I got one of those for like 8th grade, you know, and I would mess with it. But you know, as I started lifting and stuff, no clue with form, no idea with form, but you know, I was like pretty strong kid, and so, you know, the strength, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm naturally strong, but I'm just naturally not going to look like a bodybuilder. I'm not going to be lean. No clue whatsoever that there was just so much more to it than, you know, I never gave any thought to what I ate or what I did. But I just wanted to bench press a lot because that's what all the other kids ask about. You know, how much do you bench? Well, so that's what became important. So, but when I graduated, I was about 217, and then I got involved with martial arts a bunch, and I was around 190 or so is where I walked around at before my surgery. So, but yeah, I was a heavy kid to begin with. I was naturally pretty strong, but you know, the aesthetic side of it, I really had to bust ass for.
It always made me wonder what I could do, because I remember my brother's 7 years older than me. He kind of started the opposite. He started heavier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he would always tell me when we were growing up, Bedsons just can't get abs.
Bedsons can't get abs.
Bedsons can't get abs. But and you know what? I believed him, because I didn't know a damn person in our family that had abs.
Yeah.
I had nobody, like not a cousin, an uncle, anybody that had abs.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized over time, when I finally got abs, oh, we can do this. It's just, you have to put the work in to do it.
Yeah.
And that was a very cool feeling, because I feel like one day when I finally had abs, I told my brother, I was like, we can get abs.
Yeah, no kidding. It's funny now, because like I get comments a lot like, you stay pretty lean in the off season and even through your surgeries and stuff recently. And I try to stay on top of things. Like I when I first got abs though, I wasn't a kid, man. Like I was into my 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember I would check the mirror every single day, make sure those damn things didn't go away. I'm like, are we still there? We good? All right. But, that's the idea is aside from, just the aesthetic standpoint, always trying to stay in the kind of shape that I can, not just health, but also manipulate things so that I can try to grow better and so on. Like, it's not gonna do me any good to carry excess body fat, So especially now that I'm trying to build back tissue post shoulder replacements.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, throughout that process, trying to stay lean and keep those abs, I knew I was going to lose a ton of muscle, but I was like, man, I don't want to lose my abs.
I think that's my biggest thing now. I did that last competition in October, and afterwards I was like, I want to make sure I do this so correct and keep my waist as small as possible. And what I realized about that is, for some people like myself, you have to be even more disciplined in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Like I've switched, my whole routine is dedicated to around my whole fitness schedule. It's like, wake up, I go do 45 minutes of cardio, then I do breathing training, then I do abs, then I might sit in the sauna, and that's all before I eat breakfast.
Sure.
And that's what I have to do to keep abs.
Yeah, and that path is going to look different for everybody.
Yeah.
Like my day isn't necessarily the same as yours, but it's it requires work, and it requires staying on point with everything. And but for me, I don't really see another option. You're not going to stay stage lean all year long. You don't have to, and you don't need to. But staying in good shape and being healthy.
Yeah, that's one thing that it's being healthy. It's changed my whole concept of life. Is more, the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, I just want to live longer.
Sure.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, because, before when I first started this, it's like, I'll do anything to get abs. I'll do anything to be in shape. But now I'm like, I want to live longer and look like this and feel like this and feel my ultimate best by doing what I'm supposed to do. And that included one cool thing I did do recently was I started only eating one ingredient foods. I've kind of only done that concept a little bit in the past, but I throw in stuff and but religiously for probably about the last year, I've only done that, and I think that's changed everything about like my mental health.
Yes.
Physical, and it sounds so complicated, but it's so simple.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And that's actually an approach that I've done for years, prior to even you and I knowing each other. I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis when I was a kid, man. And, I've dealt with issues from that. These, like when you pick up something in the store and you look at the box and there's 5,000 ingredients and you can't pronounce half of them, that's not real food. Mm-hmm. And, your body's going to hold inflammation from that. Yeah. It doesn't know what the fuck to do with that.
You can't digest it.
No. So it's just, it's like tossing something in the attic. You don't know what it is, but you might use it another time. So you just toss it up there. It's the same concept. Your body's holding that inflammation. And for me, avoiding those type of, artificial ingredients, preservatives, all these things would really make a huge difference for me with my ability to perform inside of the gym or on the mats or in the ring, whatever the case was. And my joints, if I didn't, my joints would hurt so bad. So taking that anti-inflammatory approach to training, or rather to diet, allowed me to train with way more efficacy over a long period of time, because just the pain that I avoided by doing that and the inflammation.
Yeah.
And I do that with a lot of my clients. If I can at all, avoiding, excessive inflammation by using those one ingredient foods, I think you begin to appreciate that more and more.
Yeah.
Especially even as you age, or sometimes you don't think about it because you've never felt. Like whenever you start working with somebody and you put them on a diet and they start eating that way, they're like, I didn't really realize how I felt before. Like, I don't want to eat that way again.
Yeah.
Like, I feel better now. And
I try to tell that to all my younger kids that are getting into this. Like, I wish I got into like fitness at the age of some of these kids are getting into it now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, kids contact me. It'll be their parents. They'll be like, hey, my 14-year-old wants to get into fitness. Can you help him? And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I did that.
Oh, dude. Yes.
It'd be incredible. And that's what's creating such cool things with, fitness is more of it's something you see in high school cliques now. Remember when we went to high school, like there was, you'd have your athletes, and then you'd have kind of like your punk emo kids, and you'd have like all this. Well, there's a new group of kids. And they're the gym kids. And I think that's so interesting, because
it really is. And I've got a lot of them to come to my gym, and I see them, and it's really great. Like if you can get that in your mind that this is something worth applying myself toward and taking and investing in my health, and all these things at that age, that's awesome.
Well, they have all these new inspiration, which there's great people for that. A lot of these pro athletes, like I was talking to somebody the other day, and Chris Bumstead has more followers than Tom Brady, which is very interesting. That means he's bigger internationally than anybody. So with athletes that we in our nation are like our top athletes, he's bigger than them nationwide and internationally.
And to that point, I think, when you and I were coming up, and you're a little bit younger than me, not much, just you fucking laugh.
Couple years.
What are you talking about? But no, I remember like growing up in my town, like the only way that I seen, we didn't have internet.
Yeah.
This is pre-internet, or being able to afford internet at least. But going to Rite Aid, every now and then they'd have like a muscle and fitness magazine or a flex magazine in the magazine shelf at Rite Aid. And I remember just thumbing through it while my mom would be getting something or whatever. But now, like, social media has taken things, and Instagram really has taken things with bodybuilding and fitness to a whole nother level. And, these kids get to see this. And if you think about it, like the access they have to information and everything now, even just listening to us here, we had none of that.
None.
And I remember looking back, and you seen an ad for amino acids. And I remember seeing like Ronnie Coleman, and he's drinking amino acids. I'm like, motherfucker, I need me some of them.
Yeah.
My fat ass needs me some amino acids. I'm going to look like this.
Yep.
And, I'm like, that's what I got to have. But, now it's like, I don't even drink BCAAs.
No, but they got us. They just for sure did.
Man,
I remember I would see pre-workout the first time, and I'd buy every pre-workout I saw Flex Lewis using. I was like,
that's right.
Explode. Hell
gotta
yeah.
have it. And way before like any of those, like before any of those, stimulants were banned or anything. Oh man,
they had drugs.
Wound up like a 3-day clock, just humming. You take the DMAAs and everything.
There was one fat burner that used to be sold on when I worked in the supplement store, and it was like, what was it called? Like Synodrex or something like that. But I remember that we'd have EMTs come in there. They'd park their ambulance out front. They come in there and they'd be like, they buy all of it. Like we'd have like 6 bottles on the thing. They'd buy all of it, bring it up to the counter, all 3 of them together. And they'd be like, you have any more of this in the back? And I'm like, no, that's all we have, but we can get more of it. They're like, go ahead and get more. We'll buy it all. They're like, keeps us up for our 18-hour shifts. And I was like, what is in this?
Yeah.
I remember taking it one time just to try it because that got me interested. And I remember people coming to the store, and, I'd be running across the counter. How are you doing today?
Yeah. Pissing hot for methamphetamines if you had to take a drug test.
This is not supposed to be sold in stores.
Yeah. Well, there was one I remember, God, it's been forever ago, but there was one, I want to say it was called Craze or something like that.
Yeah.
But like I was working at the gym, and my buddy Alex was managing it, and there was people coming in, and it's like, this guy's never been to the gym in his life. Like, I mean,
he's buying for something
like this
else.
guy coming in just like scratching and stuff, like, man, y'all so crazy. And it's like, in the back of your mind, you're like, I
We had
Do I want to try that? Like,
that's the thing. Craze was the funny one because we had a guy that used to come there and you ever been to downtown Lexington? Well, you probably seen him, but he would come in there and he didn't really work out much, but he'd buy it and he'd tell me, he's like, I take this and I go downtown and I go dancing.
No shit. No shit you do.
I was like, oh, so you're using it for that. So this guy's, going downtown, takes his scoop and he just is getting wild. He's over there like,
yeah. Imagine driving up, you see somebody dry scooping craze in the parking lot of the club.
Hey,
dude, that guy's there to party. He's ready to have a good time.
Pretty sure it had party drugs in it.
Hey, come on.
Hey,
come on.
You just
mix
eliminate the middleman. You're like, here we go.
Right.
I'm going to go to a supplement store.
That's it. I'm going to mix me some craze with some vodka pregame before we go to this son of a bitch.
Man, I've seen that people do that stuff before. There was what if we stay at?
This is that part where we get on to different subjects.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We found it.
Yeah, we found it. Continue, please, good sir.
Yeah. I remember going into Class Physique. They used to have this house that everybody'd stay at for national level shows, sponsored by somebody that had, men's physique and Class Physique wear. So they would sell like trunks.
Okay.
But this guy, I remember one time we were sitting there, I got invited to stay at this house, got an athlete that was like competing there. I remember I'm sitting at the counter, working. This guy comes in there, pulls like a full thing of vodka into a cup, puts some ice in it, and then he puts a scoop of pre-workout into it, mixes it up, and he chugs it. I've never seen something. I was like, what is that? That's like it's like a Four Loko, but like 10 times power. Like, can you imagine what you would feel like off that?
Four Loko.
But it's like triple.
Yeah.
That's got to be like, imagine a Four Loko with 40% alcohol.
Just fired out of a cannon.
Like that wasn't good enough for him. There was people drinking Four Loko and they were parking themselves in their garage without the door. Like I was like driving into the house.
I mean I can see that. Did you ever get into the Four Lokos?
Nah, man, I didn't really. I think I tried one.
You ain't gotta lie.
I tried one time and it didn't go well.
He said no. I tried one time.
It didn't go well.
I tried one time.
My first time drinking, it was like Smirnoff Green Apple.
Oh.
Yeah, the worst tasting stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that made me realize like I don't need to be doing stuff drinking.
Right.
But I thought the best way to drink was, you pour it into like a red Solo cup and you just chug it because, I didn't know what a shot looked like or anything. I poured like half a red Solo cup and I just, chugged till it was gone.
Right.
Well, I remember I woke up on a playground. Don't remember anything that happened. I was
this isn't recently, is it?
No, not recently. This is back when I was like 15. But, that is one thing is like my
15. Young men and women, if you're listening to this right now,
don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Learn from my experience. But I remember that
this
was
simply to show you what not to do.
Leads me to my topic of alcohol.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's one
hell of a segue.
Yeah.
So I was drunk as shit on a playground at 15. Yeah. So anyway, about alcohol.
Yeah, that's one thing where I found with fitness, it just does not go together in the slightest.
No. I will say this. I've got a gentleman. He's in a powerlifting meet today. I talked to him this morning on my drive here. Andrew Tyndall. Shout out to Andrew. Hope you do well today. I can't wait to hear about it. But anyway, we were adjusting his water, and last night I had him do a couple shots of bourbon before bed. And just for the diuretic effect.
Yeah.
Made weight easy this morning, because we had set everything up over the course of the week. But aside from that, the alcohol's not going to do much to help you.
No, I've had people when I try to get them results, and they're drinking like 2 or 3 bourbons a night or 3 or 4 beers a night.
And
I'm like, hey, we're not going to get anything from you doing that.
No, and you're not going to be able to. And I've coached a lot of guys like that, but we can't remove enough food to make up for that, and you still get any kind of impressive physique
especially
whatsoever.
Performance too.
Oh God.
You're getting that much calories from that. What I always tell people is, I don't mind if somebody drinks every now and then. I don't have anything against alcohol. I'll still have a drink every now and then for somebody's celebration or birthday or whatnot. There's no problem with that. But when you drink so much, it affects your entire next day. that's whenever you went too far.
Yeah,
In
you
my
can't
opinion, that's
train effectively.
You can't train. You can't eat. The only meal you eat during that day is the McDonald's you decide to go get late at night because you think it's going to make you feel better. Like that's whenever you know you overdid it.
Yeah. Oh goodness, the segue got me. So that leads me to my next topic. Yeah, that was good.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's your next topic?
No, I'm saying you
want me to go?
No. Your segue into alcohol by telling a story of you being drunk on a playground at 15. I'm saying that got me. That was tremendous. But that's
clever,
great.
right?
That was very clever. You just got to roll with punches. You just got to roll with punches.
Works.
Yeah. Unfiltered.
I learned
Bedson
real
Coffey
hard
Unfiltered.
unfilteredly that don't drink alcohol 15 because later on in life, 16 years later, you realize how bad this was.
Yeah, it all comes together. Yeah.
Had a revelation.
No doubt. But with the, when you get to a certain point, I think a lot of times people that kind of want to, like a lot of people are interested, but very few people are committed.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's very easily confused by people on the outside looking in because they hear their buddy talking, man, all he does is talk about lifting weights. Well, yeah, that's all he does is fucking talk about it. Like he's not really ever applied himself to it.
Yeah.
So the people that are interested will kind of dabble back and forth with things. But whenever you're truly committed, avoiding those things and avoiding anything that's going to hinder your training, upset your nutrition, these type of things, there's no room for that if you want to compete on any sort of level above just showing up.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge difference in being competitive and competing.
Yes, absolutely.
And I tell people that, and it's like, if I'm with you, I'm not putting you on stage with my name on you. Unless we are going to be competitive, because it is a competition. Well, anybody can pay their money and do the show, but competing and being competitive are two different things.
Yeah, I've gotten really strict with that myself. I've had some where I know they're not following the plan and I know they're struggling mentally, and I've let them get on stage, and then it falls back on me because I didn't tell them like, hey, like this isn't it. So what I realized is now if somebody's not getting in shape, I straight tell them, you're not doing this show. And then, you know what, either they can get it together, which I have had people do. I have had people where I tell them, hey, you're not doing this show. You're not built for it. They prove me wrong.
Sure.
And that's a great way.
That's
I want them to prove me wrong.
Exactly.
And I had a guy last year compete, and he was struggling. It was his first time prepping. Like everybody, you struggle. You don't realize this is going to be hard.
You've never been down that road before.
You've never been these, extremes. And he was struggling. And I remember telling him, I was like, we're not doing this, man. I'm sorry. You've had too many chances. Mm-hmm. We're not doing it. We can still go ahead and get a little bit leaner, but I'm not putting you on stage. There's just no reason to. You're not going to do well. You're going to have a bad experience. Next 5 weeks, perfect consistency.
Yeah.
Every single week, everything's perfect. Things are happening how they're supposed to.
Sure.
And I remember I was like, all right. He checked in one day, and I said, go and sign up for that show.
Yeah.
When I tell you this man was so excited, he made it. He made it because he just realized all I needed to do. And I said, what changed for you? He was like, I realized how important it was.
Right.
And that was like, that's what I wanted you to know. Like, I needed you to get into that zone where you realized how important this was. Because if you don't put it as a priority with anything in life, then you're not going to get success in it.
Yeah. And during the off season and stuff, I really try to, between shows or events and stuff, I really try to be very giving of my time and everything to those around me, because if you're in prep, like it's a selfish time. Like everything revolves around that show. Everything revolves around that sporting event. So like it is very important. It is very, you have to kind of isolate yourself, and you have to be selfish because everything revolves around your training schedule, your eating schedule, everything. So in those moments, I think sometimes people think they can cut corners, so, well, I'll just do this, or, well, I'll just do this. And like cases like that. And then when you see the difference, when you apply everything, and you're doing the routine things routinely, and every single day, like it is so, some people don't realize this, but like the actual things that work aren't the things that look so pretty and are so sexy.
No.
Eating the same thing every day works.
It does.
Doing the same things every day works. Weighing in at the same times, doing your cardio the same way, doing these things, obviously making adjustments as the body requires them.
Exactly.
But doing things in a structured manner so that you can get that objective feedback and make changes. You know, if I have clients that are inconsistent, it's like, well, how do I make changes to a plan that's not being followed?
Exactly.
And because of that, whenever you finally get them to start sticking to the plan, it's like, well, you know, we don't even have to adjust right now because you're progressing so well,
Yeah.
you know, and then we'll go, you know, with whatever we have to do. But you hit the nail on the head there with it. It's like whenever they realize how important it is, like those things aren't just on the plan just because I wanted to add them. Like they're there because you told me what you wanted.
Yep.
And you told me what you needed to do. And we looked over everything. And this is what this is what is going to be best for you to reach those goals. You've asked me for my input. This is my input. And, you know, and avoiding any of those cutting corners and so on and really adhering to the plan not only allows us to get there quicker, but also gives me the, you know, objective feedback to make changes and make adjustments.
Yeah.
And it's all you're doing is collecting data as a coach each week.
Yeah.
It's like a science experiment. We're changing variables and we're collecting data, and working with somebody over a longer period of time only adds to that data bank, you know, because I can look back 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago and say, okay, well, this worked when we did this, or this didn't work when we did this. And I'm getting, you know, and I'm collecting data with these check-ins, and I'm being able to make more educated changes based on, you know, your past changes and results.
That's when you start to learn somebody and how they work, it
100%.
changes everything about it. That's why I
100%.
always tell people, the longer you work with me, the easier it's going to be.
100%.
On you, on me, on everything, and the better you're going to look.
And I think a lot of young athletes think, well, I only need to coach during prep.
Oh, man.
And that seems to be fairly common, but you know, through an off season, through a growth phase, whatever you want to call it, is where we're collecting data, seeing how your body, not only keeping you in check so that you don't ruin your physique, but also optimizing growth, optimizing, you know, improvements, trying to, you know, build that structure, not just allowing you to play the games you're good at, the ones you enjoy, but making you do the things that you need to do. All that stuff's very, very important, again, leading into that prep.
Yeah. One thing I was going to think of, a little story to kind of segue again into another topic. Back when I was younger, I remember when I first really started getting into this, I would go to the gym religiously. You know, like anybody else, when you get into it, you want to go pretty much every day.
Sure.
You know, 7 days a week. Sometimes I'd be in there because I was just like, that's fun. I want to go to the gym.
Yeah, my dumb ass bench like 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to bench a certain amount. No clue.
And it was crazy because, you know, I wasn't really training with intensity, so I thought it was okay. You know, I'd go in there 7 days a week. I'd do something, but it was nothing crazy to the point where I was like sore and like I couldn't train. I didn't realize what it was. Nowadays, I only train, you know, 5 days a week.
Sure.
And I make sure that I rest. And I don't think people understand the importance of stepping back a little bit either, and how
100%.
that plays a role, because you don't grow when you're actually training and tearing your muscle down.
Exactly.
When do you grow?
Right.
When you're resting. And getting that into some people's heads whenever they are just starting and getting into this, I found is kind of a struggle. You know,
Yeah.
it's a different concept. Like you're not allowed to go to the gym today. I'm so upset about that. Like they don't understand quite yet why that's important.
Learning, you know, I used a term while I was, you know, and I'm still recovering from these surgeries, but I used a term, aggressive patience.
Yeah.
Being aggressively patient. What I mean by that was, you know, and on those rest days, understanding that has to be treated with the same importance as the workout, as the nutrition, as everything else. Because again, we're not growing inside of the gym. We're tearing things apart. We're breaking things down. Making sure that you have adequate time to rebuild and adequate time to recover. Without that, nothing else matters. You know, you can even get to the point of overreaching where now we're starting to compromise our nervous system. A lot of things come into play. And it really does, I think a lot of times it's it's upsetting to a lot of new people because they think, well, man, I need to be in there doing something. I need to be in there working. I need to be, and it's like, no, you've done enough. Sometimes even in the off season, cutting back to 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allowing myself more time to recover.
I kind of go on a swing schedule. Like, if I'm not feeling fully recovered, if I feel like I'm not going to be able to give it my
100%.
all, sometimes, you know what, I'll take another rest day.
Yeah.
And there's no problem with that. But back when I first started, that was something I think I really struggled with, that I try to really help the younger crowd out with now. I'm like, take your rest days.
Oh, yeah.
That's where you're going to see the progress. And it's a really cool thing to, find other things to do outside the gym while you're on those rest days, even if it's, reading a book.
Yeah.
Anything,
Yeah, sometimes we get so caught up with that we feel like that's all we have and that's all we want to do. But,
Well, your CNS is always active. You got some people, they drink caffeine every single day, and then they go ahead and go to the gym every day. So CNS is always active.
Sure.
So if you don't get that parasympathetic nervous system active to rest and recover, you're never going to get the results you truly want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, it has been awesome talking to you today, man. I've learned a lot of stuff about you.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's kind of cool.
That you used to pass out in parks when you said when you were 25?
15. Yeah, bad time in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens, though, and you learn your lesson.
It does.
After that, I never drink Smirnoff green apple again.
Which Smirnoff do you drink now?
I don't drink any of them.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I just, deleted that.
Yeah. Until now, saying it like
what's
aloud
funny,
on
though,
here.
and we'll close out real quick after this. My mom asked me why I was sick, and I told her it was because of Jones Soda.
Jones Soda. Mama had too much soda. It's all right, baby.
Yeah,
it's all right.
You know what I didn't...
Get you a cold rag, put on your head.
I blame Jones Soda.
Jones Soda.
So Jones Soda, if you're hearing this, you can give me a sponsorship. I don't drink it, but I think it'd be cool.
He went ahead and released the truth, like you're no longer on the hook for making him sick.
Yes, I apologize, Jones Soda.
Smirnoffs, you guys, y'all fucked up though. Yeah, y'all made him sick. That's it. This has been Bedson and Coffey Unfiltered. Thank you guys for listening.
Make sure to go follow us on social media.